Ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now, Buffalo Bills general manager, holy hell, can't believe this is happening, Brandon Beane. Okay, attaboy, Brandon!
Woo! Appreciate that, Pat. How you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you? You have to feel, I was almost going to swear, they were pretty good to be a Buffalo Bill right now. Last year, season came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, Tom Brady says, I'm heading out of town. Gronk comes back to football, but out of your division. You get Stefon Diggs. You have to feel really good right now to be in a position that you're in.
Yeah, we're trying to get there, Pat. Obviously, we wanted to take Brady down ourselves. We were 0-6, Sean and I, since we got here 3 years ago. So, a guy of his stature. You played against him all those years in Indianapolis. You know what their team was like, and I'm sure that was always the game of the year.
Yep.
For you guys, but. At the same time, we just focused on what we got and wish Tom and the best. If he's going to leave, I'm glad he went to the NFC.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
I was about to say, you still might have a chance to run into him. I mean, there's still a chance that old Brandon Beane and McDermott can take down the enemy Tom.
I promise you, we'd love a chance to play him again here at some point. I mean, he says he's going to play for at least 2 or 3 more years, so I got to think some way, somehow it would happen. And yeah, Gronk coming back. I mean, just. Obviously, a lot of excitement for the league. He's a fun guy to have in the league. You got to love his personality. And again, an AFC East foe for us, and always caused us headaches. But you respect his game, and it's fun to have him back in the NFL.
All right, let's talk about you and the squad that you have built here. You said he's saying he's going to stick around for at least another 2 to 3 years. I feel like you understand that, hey, building a team takes a little bit of time. There's been a lot of patience that you and McDermott have had together with each other. I mean, 2017, your first year there, you had to get rid of a lot of contracts that were made from the previous GM to fit the team in your vision, I'd assume. Tyrod Taylor gets the team to the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. You get him out of town. Then you bring in Josh Allen. What has that been like, the entire process? And did you know you were like, hey, whenever I get a gig, I have to, because this is just something that works in the NFL. When you become a guy, you always have this situation where you want to build your team your way. How has the patience been in building your team? And last year, make a playoff run. I assume it's going to go to the next step, but the Buffalo Bills are a picture of patience in a world now in the NFL that doesn't have a lot of patience, and it seems like it's paying off.
Yeah, you got to give our owners, Terry and Kim, obviously a lot of props. Sean got here a few months before I did, but laying the vision out was, listen, we're going to make some necessary moves in 17. We're going to try and win because, you want to build a winning culture, and I just don't believe in, the word tanking or whatever you want to throw out there. So obviously we were trying to win. Did I think we were going to get in the playoffs that year? No, I probably wouldn't have bet on that. But Tyrod and that group, Kyle Williams, we snuck in the back door. We got some help by the Bengals beating the Ravens on the last game and slide in. And what a fun thing to end a 17-year drought for our fan base. But that's what made 18 really hard, was making all these necessary moves. But we were able to acquire enough draft picks for Josh Allen. The 18 season, we had over $50 million of dead money. So obviously that hurt Sean, McDermott, and our staff's chance, knowing that there's $50 million of players that we're not competing with out there. But if you're patient and you can build it, that's the thing I've said. If I get a gig, to your point, Pat, we're going to lay it out and we're going to do it the way we want to do it, and we're not adjusting. Whether we won the Super Bowl the first year or whether we didn't win a game, the plan was we're going to get rid of this cap, acquire draft capital, find a franchise quarterback, and then build it from there.
Okay, why was Josh Allen your guy? What was it about Josh Allen? And then obviously the first year, he has those glimpses of greatness. The athleticism is off the charts. And then last year, he gets even better. Everybody on earth is expecting him to get even better. But let's go back to whenever you pick him up and he's the guy. What was it about Josh Allen? And were you worried about the small school thing? Like, hey, I don't know how this guy's going to transition?
That's when you're scouting him, you're definitely trying to watch. All right, who is he going against? What corners, what receivers does he have? And unfortunately, it is what it is. He's playing at Wyoming, but you still have to give him the attributes of the arm talent, the athletic ability, the prototypical size. Those are the things we saw on tape, watching him through the fall, and then I went and saw him live, and then saw him live again at the Senior Bowl. The next part, Pat, was getting to know him, and one of the first things that we figured out testing him, this guy's very smart. Brian Dayball, We met with him at the Senior Bowl. We tested him. He was very smart. Then we went to Laramie a month later and tested him again in a couple different scenarios, some kind of quick processing things. And then also,
what do those look like, Brandon? What do those look like for people that have never seen something like this? Because I talk about the Wonderlic, and people are like, "Well, I've never heard what the Wonderlic's like." In that process of trying to get a gauge on somebody, not just how tall they are or how fast they are, but when you're trying to figure out the brain and quick process, what does that look like? Are you giving them a play and telling them what to do, or is it something different, completely unrelated to football?
So Brian was basically he would sit up and he would teach each of the quarterbacks that we met with. He would sit up in the room and teach them certain parts of the playbook, what the formation is, what the personnel group is, and what the play call is. And basically what he would do is he would tell the players, whether it was him or any of the other guys, walk out of the room, and Brian would write some stuff that these guys had to match on the board. And we did the same exact test for each one. And basically it was match this formation with this play call. And so Brian would ask a question and say, all right, and see how quickly. And basically we would time them to see if they could get them all done in like 30 seconds.
That's amazing.
And it was, we did a couple different those, but we tried, well, the thing we did, Pat, to make it fair across the board was we did the same exact test with each quarterback and timed them to see how quickly, can they beat 30 seconds, or if not, how many do they get, completed in 30 seconds. And without going into what the other guys did, Josh did really well. Obviously, he scored 37 on the Wonderlic, but he was a quick processor. So that was the next step. How smart is he? You're 37?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice.
Yeah, that got leaked. I was happy it got leaked. There's a lot of other things that got leaked about me that I wasn't excited about.
Yeah, there's always certain things you don't want to get leaked, but
if we could pick and
make sure
choose.
that 37 gets out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're 100% right. Sorry I cut you off there.
And then just his personality, Pat. I mean, when you feel him in the room, and when we went to Laramie, we brought our owners with us just to see how he's around owners, how's he around us, and was amazed at how comfortable he was in his skin. And you felt it. We went to a restaurant in Laramie, and people are just, Josh was just super nice to the host. You could tell he'd been there before, but he's not walking in there like, hey, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. He's talking to every single person from the hostess, and just genuine dude. Took him to lunch after the workout the next day. It was the same thing. And again, then brought him to Buffalo, and just, everything about him, screamed leadership. And I think if you ask the guys on our team, Pat, whether they're on the offensive side or the defensive side, I haven't found anybody that just doesn't love who Josh Allen is on and off the field.
Well, Lorenzo Alexander, he's been on our show a couple times, steadfast up there in Buffalo, loves the Bills, because there was a conversation when Cam Newton was opened up to the market after a bunch of quarterbacks had been signed already. The thought was to the Chargers. And then Chargers said, no, we're out. We're going to draft a guy. And then the thought was to Miami. They do the same thing. Then maybe Jacksonville. They take the Sky Cam, Mike Glennon. Then maybe it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, they're not interested. And then everybody is like, well, maybe the Buffalo Bills, because he and Josh Allen, both very athletic. I asked Lorenzo Alexander, linebacker for the Buffalo Bills for a long time, and he said he doesn't 100% know that if Cam Newton would fit the culture that Sean McDermott has built in Buffalo, and also he thinks that would be unfair to Josh Allen in his growth, especially with how much he's grown, to get a guy in there who's a proven player, who should be a player somewhere. But whenever you're talking about a young quarterback, you got to empower him to know he's the guy. Is that the feeling that you have as well, with the thought of any other quarterbacks, let alone Cam Newton, but any other quarterback to potentially come in there?
Yeah, our whole goals, the first thing we looked at after this season, Pat, we had a good year, but offensively we still didn't score enough points, and I think that's what caught up with us in Houston. If you remember that game, we started with a touchdown, but after that we settled for field goals. We just couldn't punch it in, couldn't get a big play, and got it to overtime, and still same thing, couldn't get the play we needed to get in field goal territory. And so that was the impetus for the move of Stefon Diggs, adding, another weapon opposite John Brown, pairing with Cole Beasley. And, that's been everything. It's been trying to give Josh all he needs. We have the same O-line that we had last year, which was a much improved group from 18. Josh's rookie year, we didn't do very well up front. And that was the main thing we had to get fixed last year, was our O-line. So while it was improved, it's not perfect, but having the same, the continuity of those front five back should help. Josh is familiar with them. Now they're familiar, with how he checks and calls games and things like that. So that's been our thing here going into 2020, is surrounding Josh with more weapons. We add another running back to pair with Devin Singletary, add Zach Moss, and then a couple bigger receivers later in the draft, and Gabe Davis from Central Florida, and then Isaiah Hodgins from Oregon State. So to your question, it's a long-winded answer, Pat, but it's Josh Allen is our guy, and we're going to surround him. We did draft Jake Fromm, but we didn't anticipate that. That's more of he'll compete with Matt Barkley, in a backup type role. But other than that, Josh is our guy.
Well, there's a couple Packers fans that are currently in the room right now that are wondering why that same thought wasn't taken over there. But Brandon Beane, like the way you're building that team with some patience. Stefon Diggs, whatever. It had came out, last year, week 4, that he got fined $200,000 for missing a practice, and then Thielen was up in arms, and then it was a very interesting situation that inevitably led to their offense turning around and doing better and doing a late playoff push, and then everybody knew that Stefon Diggs was not happy being in Minnesota, whether it was social media work or working out in a Cardinals shirt or anything like that. How did that whole process come about for the Buffalo Bills to be like, hey, here's a guy who is an unbelievable talent. For whatever reason, it's not working with Zimmer out there. He's a guy that's available. Let's go get him. How did that whole process happen? And do you have guys in your mind during the season or after the season when you do that evaluation where you're like, if this guy comes available, we need to get him in. If this person becomes available, we need to get them in. Is that how that goes?
Yeah, definitely. You're looking after the season, you're looking at who the free agents are, who the cap casualties are, and then who are guys that maybe teams would be willing to unload either for cap reasons or this situation. It hasn't always meshed, for whatever reason. And Pat, we tried to make a trade in the season last year for a wide receiver. We looked at several. Some of them did get traded to other teams that just didn't work out on our end. And, Stefon was one of the ones that I did inquire about with Minnesota, and they were just steadfast. No, and I don't blame them. They were mid-season. They were having a good year. Why would you trade, your number one guy like that? But in the back of my mind, and we did a lot of recon on him at that point, but in the back of my mind, it's, we've done the recon on him. Maybe down the road is still an option if it would be a fit for us at that time. So it just kind of happened. We were getting set. It was first night of free agency, and some stuff was out there, and we circled up with Minnesota that afternoon. Started having some discussions. Kind of looked at what our free agent market was. Looked at where we were drafting at 22. Kind of where we thought the receivers may fall, and just felt like we wouldn't be able to get a guy at 22, Pat, that can do what a Stefon Diggs can do.
Stefon's an unbelievable talent. I mean, he is an unbelievable talent. For whatever reason last year, it was very obvious to me and anybody that's ever seen a football player act with a football team. He was not happy there. I think that's a big addition to your squad up there in Buffalo. Excited to see what he can help out with Josh Allen and deep threat, maybe score some more points. Couple last questions here, and I can't thank you enough for joining us. You're a cool dude, by the way. Bill's Mafia, I assume, loves you, and they should. Vontae Davis, okay? I was teammates with Vontae. All right. Yeah, okay. Vontae and I, good friends. I think anybody who's ever met Vontae loves Vontae. And I think the story from LaShawn and I forget who else. It was
Tre'Davious.
Yeah, Tre'Davious talking about the Vontae Davis situation. How did you, because I assume GMs aren't in the locker room at halftime. And no. You're not in the locker room. You're up in a box somewhere watching alongside other people, and you have the TV on and other people with you. And obviously in the locker room, Vontae goes, hey, dog, like this ain't, I'm out of here, dog. Right? He just, this is a young man's game. Hey, this is a young man. I ain't no man. So whenever that happens, and the team comes back on the field, and you're like just looking around, and you don't see Vontae, is that a call down, or did they call you? How did you find out about the Vontae situation? And have you talked to Vontae since then, and how have those conversations gone?
So, we'll take them one at a time. Something I'd never seen, and Vontae, and I can say I've seen a lot of things. That's when I said I've seen it all. An NFL player. I mean, I've seen a kid in Little League walk off the field like he's ticked off. His mom or dad's not happy. Get in the car, Johnny. We're going home. But I've never seen it from an NFL perspective. And no, I got a text, and I didn't understand it, to be honest with you. I got a text from the locker room basically saying, hey, Vontae's done. And I'm like, done? And he's like, yeah, he says he's not going to play anymore. And I thought in my head, he's pulling himself out, something's hurting him, he come off a growing thing or something. Or he and a coach got into it. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not, never in my mind did I think he's like done with the NFL, all that stuff. So after the game, I'm talking to Sean. He still doesn't really know everything. They got to go back out and coach this game. We'll deal with this later. And so you're asking questions like, no, he literally got dressed in the locker room at halftime, packed his stuff, and drove out. So, I called his agent and tried to reach him, and he was in the middle of it trying to figure out what was going on. I don't think we honestly thought – I thought maybe something was underlying that I still didn't know about. Like, okay, he's going to come in tomorrow. We'll hash through this. We'll figure it out. And it was like, no, I'm happy. I'm good. I'll pay my bonus back. Like, because that was the next thing. Like, well, how are we going to do this? And they're like, no, he's going to pay his money back. And I got to give him a lot of credit. Amen. Some people may have argued. Vontae immediately paid everything back. So, although I was very disappointed to see a guy do that at halftime, I got to give him credit. He was steadfast, and within 2 weeks, he had paid his bonus back. And I thought that was pretty impressive.
There was a group text thread that popped off in my phone immediately upon it happening. I mean, it was a lot of people like, did you see, have you heard? And then everybody's like, Vontae wouldn't do it. Because that's not Vontae, by the way. Vontae, that is not an indicator of what Vontae Davis. Vontae's a hard worker. He had to rehab a lot. He's gone. Like his first couple years in Miami, I think he thought he wasted his talent. Comes to Indianapolis, kind of turns it around. Hard-working guy, enjoyed practice. And then all of a sudden, halftime, hey, dog, I'm out of here. That was it came out of nowhere. And
you got his voice down.
Oh, hey, we had plenty of conversations.
That's great.
Well, how do you feel about Bills Mafia? When you go from Carolina up to Buffalo. And I think because of the 17-year drought, there's a lot of conversation about the fan base who is so passionate, so loyal, and absolutely bonkers. I mean, it is some of the most beautiful things in all of professional sports. When you go to Buffalo, what is your relationship with Bills Mafia? Because you had to make some hard decisions. You cut some players, I assume, that they loved. People that made a lot, but the people that are salary cap, they had some good years that they got that big contract from somebody. So you had to get rid of some people. I assume there was a little bit of Bills Mafia like, come on, this guy. But now that you've kind of turned around on the other side, how is the Bills Mafia relationship with old Brandon Beane and the Bills right now?
No, it's been great. They haven't burnt my house down, so we're good there. But a lot of burning tables, but they haven't taken my house. No, to your point, some of the moves I made early on, I definitely knew they were unpopular. But ones, as I said earlier, had to be done. But Bills Mafia has been great and just super supportive of what we're doing, what Sean's doing, and our players, and they're fired up, with us making the playoffs again, which is 2 out of 3 years after a 17-year drought. So I think they feel like we're heading in the right direction. Obviously, we feel like we still got a lot of goals to accomplish, but we are. But there's no fan base. I mean, if you're an NFL fan or any fan, you should come to a game in Orchard Park, and just watch it, soak it in, give yourself time, get there at 9 a.m. If the game's at 1, be there. You can be there earlier. They're out there. I pull in around 8 a.m. and they're out there because they got all these RVs. And it's like, what it reminded me of was like a NASCAR event. You see all these RVs pull up at a NASCAR. They're coming in Friday night and Saturday morning. So, Pat, our players can see the RVs when they come in for a Saturday, walk through, all that stuff. I mean, people are out there.
Sean McDermott giving the speech to the team being like, hey, they're ready. You see them? Look, they got the kegs tapped already in the RV. We got an entire moment. What a scene up there.
It's unbelievable. There's no, again, to withstand 17 years of what this organization had to go through of no postseason success, and just to be, I mean, literally first game we're out there in 2017, it was sold out and packed. And I'm thinking, man, we're going to have to earn some trust. I'm wondering what the fan support's going to be because, again, I'm learning all about it. I knew it, but they're just, and they show. I'm telling you, last year in Nashville, Pat, we played the Titans, and it was like a bowl game, a college bowl game. We make a play, you hear a huge roar. They make a play. It was truly like a split crowd, and
awesome.
I didn't go down Broadway, but people were talking about that. It was like obviously in today's environment, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Well,
but,
currently, yeah.
Current
moment, Bills Mafia would not thrive in the current environment that we are in the world.
No, they're going to be dying, but they literally took over that stadium, and it's it's been so fun when we win on the road. There's not a game that we've been to where if we're winning late, like we've got it sealed up, and they are making all sorts of racket. The home fans are Xing out, and they've all come down behind our bench, and our players they look for it, they love it. Pittsburgh last year, when they did the Renegade song and all that stuff, I mean, it was just, for Pittsburgh's historical, how great they've been for so long. It was we got one in here. Huh?
Oh yeah.
We were there.
We were there for that game, by the way. Your defense had 75 picks, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think there was 75 interceptions that game by your defense. But you're 100% right. I had never heard a Pittsburgh stadium, because we're from Pittsburgh, filled with another team's fans as much as that is not something that's normal in Pittsburgh. Buffalo invaded, and I think it's because they felt that match was pretty much for an AFC wildcard spot at the time.
Yeah, that was for a playoff spot.
That was for a playoff spot. That was an electric atmosphere there. He's got a question, by the way. Big Steelers fan here has a question.
I'm sorry. I'm surprised you didn't cut me off.
No, it's not me. I don't care. They could have paid me. They didn't. This guy, though, big.
We've had plenty of years of success. It's fine.
Steelers stuff, everything. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
You being with Cam so many years in Carolina, are you surprised? Like, are other GMs surprised that Cam has not found a spot yet?
Yeah, I truly think he would have if it wasn't, he's coming off the injury again. He had the foot this year, the shoulder the year before, and I just kind of feel like he's one of those guys that maybe medically people want to make sure, what am I getting? And then, maybe they don't want to necessarily promise him a starting job. Maybe Cam has, started out as, I definitely want to be a starter. And I've been asked this question a couple times. I thought, some of the spots you mentioned, Pat, earlier, I thought those were going to be great spots for him, that he would go in and if not get the job, he would be the favorite to win the job. And I'm really surprised because, if he's back healthy, I'm assuming he is. If he's back healthy, I mean, this guy was an MVP. I mean, he led us to a 15-1 season. So I don't totally get why he's not been signed, other than there may be some medical concerns and guys can't get their doctors to get their hands on him.
I assume you have other stuff to do, but you're a nice guy, and we're just going to talk to you until you have to leave. Will you watch, like Cam Newton right now is currently posting videos, okay? And his videos look like he's in better shape than I've ever seen him. And he seems like he has a massive chip on his shoulder because this is the first time he's ever been told, get the hell out, and we don't want you, and nobody else wants him either. So I think Cam Newton's going to come back, just like you said, and go to somewhere, be a great quarterback. But do scouts and GMs, because there's like trick shot kickers that get workouts who just kick on the internet, do you guys watch these videos, and do you take anything into account whenever you see workouts online, knowing that it's just highlights, no matter what's the case?
Yeah, you flip them on. At the end of the day, I've seen some of our guys putting some stuff out there, working out, whether it's receiver, he ain't dropping the ball, quarterback, he's throwing a great dime, in there. And I'm like, okay, where's the other ones? Where's the drops? Where's the missed throws? But in all seriousness, you can still see him do it. And if Cam's got, I haven't seen his videos, but if he's out there posting some stuff, I have no doubt, Pat, that's the exact words I used. I was asked about him a few weeks ago, and I'm like, this guy is coming out. He's being told, no, we don't want you by a lot of teams. He is going to have the biggest chip on his shoulder. He's always played with one, but he's going to – I wouldn't bet against him, and I'm surprised that somebody hasn't signed him yet.
All right. Well, we appreciate you so much. By the way, listen, I got football to pay attention to. I'm not putting a damn thing on the wall behind me.
I love it. No, I'm at a buddy's house, so I threw this up, and so I'm in a bedroom. So
are you golfing?
Hopefully this weekend. Hopefully.
How's your game?
I haven't played yet this year. I'm decent once I get going, but
nice.
This may be ugly these first few rounds.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're an incredible interview. Most GMs can't do this type of thing. I can't thank you enough for joining us. You're the best for this, honestly.
Nah, appreciate it, Pat. Anytime. You guys stay safe.
You got it. You too. And good luck on the course this weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Beane.
Appreciate it.